Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into the world of phrasal verbs today.
Ooh, fun.
But specifically, ones built around the word get. It's a good one to focus on.
It is.
Because get is like, I always say like the Swiss Army knife of English verbs.
It really is.
Super versatile.
It is.
And today, we're going to unpack 25 of these common phrasal verbs.
Okay.
All pulled from a real podcast script.
Oh, cool.
So this way, you're learning the kind of English people actually use out in the wild.
That's fascinating.
Yes.
I think what's so interesting about phrasal verbs is they often pack more punch than single verbs. They can add all these shades of meaning and even reveal cultural attitudes.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something I think we'll explore a bit as we go along here.
Totally. Okay, so let's start with just some everyday examples. Get up, get ready. We use these without even thinking.
I was actually thinking this morning, I need to get up earlier to get that workout in. Before work.
It's so funny how those basic actions become these phrasal verbs.
Totally.
But that's what makes them so essential to mastering natural English. They're just woven into the fabric of daily life.
Totally.
Speaking of which, how did you get ready for today's deep dive?
Oh.
Anything special?
Just the usual coffee.
Oh, nice.
And a quick review of our list here.
Okay.
Making sure we got some interesting nuggets to share.
Right.
Now, here's one.
Yeah.
That trips some people up.
Okay.
Get in versus get on.
Oh, yes.
Get in the car.
Right.
But get on the bus.
That's right. Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
That subtle distinction, I think, actually reflects a little bit of English history.
Oh.
Get on often implies mounting something.
Okay.
Like a horse or a large vehicle.
Okay.
Think about knights getting on their steeds. Right? Get in is more about entering an enclosed space, like a carriage.
Yeah.
Or in modern times, a car.
Okay. So it's like a linguistic echo of how we used to travel.
Totally.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then we have get out, which can be pretty straightforward. Let's get out of here. This place is packed.
Right.
But it can also have a more figurative meaning.
Right.
I'm trying to get out of this commitment.
Exactly. Get out shows how a single phrasal verb can be both literal and metaphorical.
Right.
It speaks to our desire to escape.
Yeah.
Whether it's a physical space or a tricky situation.
Totally. Makes me wonder, what's the trickiest situation you've ever had to get out of?
Ooh, good question.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that time I accidentally double booked myself for a stand-up comedy gig and a friend's birthday party.
Oof.
Yeah.
Had to get creative.
The art of the graceful exit.
Yes. Exactly. Now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
To the world of work and study.
All right.
Get down to business is a classic.
It is a classic.
Right. It's like flipping a switch.
Totally.
From casual mode to serious mode.
Yeah.
I can just picture a boardroom full of executives all nodding along all right, time to get down to business. You think the phrase has gotten less formal?
I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
You asked that.
Yeah.
While it still holds a certain formality, I've definitely noticed it used in more casual settings as well.
Right.
Maybe it's because work-life boundaries have become blurrier these days.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it's a great example. It is.
Of how language evolves.
Right.
Now get ahead. That's a phrasal verb with some real ambition behind it.
Absolutely. Get ahead goes beyond simply succeeding.
Right.
It suggests a drive to surpass expectations and reach a higher level.
Yeah.
It implies a competitive spirit.
Totally.
Which, might be particularly relevant in today's fast-paced world.
It's like I'm not just playing the game, I'm here to win.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of competition, do you think the pressure to get ahead is more intense in certain cultures?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that linguists and anthropologists are still exploring.
Right.
Individualism versus collectivism. Societal values around success.
Right.
These all play a role in how we perceive and use language.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's like a whole cultural dimension to phrasal verbs.
There is.
I'm learning so much. Good. I'm glad.
And for those of us who are always feeling swamped.
Always.
Right. There's get through and get back to.
Those are essential for navigating.
Yeah.
A busy life.
Right.
Get through implies perseverance. Tackling that mountain of tasks, get back to.
Yeah.
Acknowledges our limits, the need to prioritize.
Yeah.
It's interesting how these phrases mirror the balance we're always kind of looking for.
I know I feel a sense of relief when I finally get through a huge project at work, but then it's right back to getting back to.
It's like a never-ending cycle, isn't it?
Totally.
But that's where those, phrasal verbs come in handy. They give us the language to express those everyday triumphs and struggles we all have.
Absolutely.
Right. It's fascinating how these seemingly simple phrases like get through and get back to can actually reveal so much about our work culture.
Oh, boy.
And even our individual coping mechanism.
It's true. It's like we're decoding the hidden messages behind the words.
Yes.
Speaking of decoding, let's move on to some phrasal verbs.
Okay.
That come in handy in social situations.
Right.
We've all got to get along.
Right.
And get together sometime.
Absolutely. These phrasal verbs highlight our fundamental need for connection.
Total.
But the way we use them can be quite nuanced. Get along speaks to the quality of our relationships, whereas get together suggests shared activities, creating those bonds.
It makes me wonder if different cultures have different ways of expressing these ideas.
Yeah.
Are there cultures where getting along is prioritized?
Right.
Over individual expression or vice versa?
That's a really insightful question. And yes, there's a whole field of study dedicated to how language and culture intersect.
Okay.
For example, some cultures emphasize harmony and avoiding conflict, which might be reflected in the way they use get along.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that even simple phrases can carry a lot of cultural baggage.
Yes.
So to speak.
Totally.
Now let's talk about get back at.
Ooh.
That one always has a bit of a mischievous vibe to it.
It does.
Don't you think? Get back at.
Yeah, get back at taps into that primal urge for revenge, that desire to even the score, when we feel wronged. Of course, we're not endorsing any actual acts of vengeance here.
Of course not.
But it's interesting to see how language
gives us a way to express those feelings.
Right.
Even if we don't act on them.
Right. It's like a safe outlet.
Exactly.
For those less than noble impulses.
Yes.
Right. I remember once back in college, my roommate got back at me for stealing his favorite coffee mug.
What did he do?
By hiding on my socks.
Oh, no.
It was harmless, but
yeah,
definitely got the message across.
A classic case of an eye for an eye.
Right.
Albeit with socks instead of eyes.
That's right. Speaking of getting carried away,
yeah,
that brings us to another interesting contrast.
Okay.
Get carried away versus get away.
Right.
One implies losing control. The other seeking a deliberate escape.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Like phrasal verbs allow us to express both our impulsive and intentional selves.
Totally.
You know, we might get carried away by a moment of passion or excitement, but then crave the peace
of getting away from it all.
Precisely. And it highlights how language provides us with the tools to navigate those emotional complexities.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
We need ways to express both surrender and agency.
Totally.
And phrasal verbs like these give us that flexibility.
I love it. I'm starting to see phrasal verbs in a whole new light.
Totally.
It's not just about grammar. It's about understanding the psychology behind how we use language.
Totally.
Yeah.
And speaking of psychology, our next set of phrasal verbs delves into the realm of problem solving.
Right.
Get out of and get around.
Okay.
These have a bit of a clever, resourceful vibe to them.
They do, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they imply a certain level of ingenuity, a knack for finding loopholes.
Totally.
Or workarounds.
Yeah. It's like that MacGyver mentality.
I love that. Yeah. I love that analogy. using whatever's at hand to solve the problem.
Yes. And it touches on something we mentioned earlier, how phrasal verbs can reflect cultural values.
Right.
In this case, they might suggest an admiration for resourcefulness and adaptability.
But that's always about following the rules.
Yeah.
But about finding a way
Exactly.
to, shall we say, get around them.
Well, let's just say these phrasal verbs suggest a certain flexibility in approaching challenges. You know, it's not always about breaking the rules, but about finding creative solutions within the constraints we face.
Totally. Now, on a slightly more serious note, let's talk about get over and get it over with. These touch on the emotional side.
They do.
Of dealing with problems, right?
Absolutely. Get over speaks to the process of healing and moving on from setbacks, whereas get it over with suggests a more proactive approach, facing the unpleasant head on.
I can definitely relate to both of those.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to give yourself time to get over something.
Really.
While other times, it's best to just rip off the Band-Aid. And get it over with.
Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the approach that works best for the situation and for your own personality.
Right. Some people are more avoidant, while others prefer to confront challenges head on.
It's fascinating how those personality differences can be reflected in our language choices. Now, this next set of phrasal verbs really speaks to me personally. Because they're all about fun, hobbies, and those things that make us tick.
I like it.
We're talking get into, get off on, get by, get in on, and get round to.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
I love how these phrases capture our enthusiasm, our quirks, and even our procrastination tendencies.
Me too.
All right.
They remind us that language isn't just about conveying information. It's about expressing our unique personalities. And connecting with others who share our passions.
All right, let's dive into these fun-loving phrasal verbs.
Okay, let's do it.
First up, get into and get off on.
Okay.
These are all about those things that light us up, right?
Exactly. Get into suggests a deep interest, a passion that we invest time and energy in. Get off on the other hand, implies more visceral enjoyment, a thrill or excitement that we derive from a particular activity.
I love that distinction between like getting in something and getting off on it. It's like the difference between a long-term commitment and a fleeting but intense pleasure. For example, I'm really getting into learning to play the ukulele these days.
Oh, nice.
It's challenging, but rewarding. But I also get off on those moments when I finally nail a tricky chord progression.
There you go. That's a perfect example. Like you're highlighting the two sides of the passion coin, the dedication, and the pure joy.
Totally. And speaking of joy, let's talk about get by.
Okay.
It's such a versatile phrase.
It is.
Conveying everything from simple survival to a quiet kind of resilience.
I think of it as like the linguistic equivalent of a shrug, but with a hint of determination.
Totally. Like, things are tough. But we're getting by.
They're making it work.
Right. Do you think that sense of resilience is more common?
I don't know. That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how different communities face adversity.
Right.
Maybe in cultures where collective support is strong. Getting by takes on a more communal meaning.
That's a good point. It's like the weight of getting by is shared.
It is.
Now, for those of us who are a bit more social butterflies, there's get in on.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about that feeling of wanting to be part of the action.
Absolutely. Get in on speaks to our innate curiosity and our desire for inclusion.
Totally.
We want to be in the loop
Yeah.
to experience those moments of shared excitement.
It's like that feeling of FOMO.
Yes.
Right?
Totally.
Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
But in a more positive light.
Exactly.
Like, hey, something awesome is happening. And I want to get in on it.
I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about embracing
It is.
Opportunities for connection.
Yeah.
And shared experiences. And finally, we have get round to.
Yes.
Which, let's be honest, is the phrasal verb of champions.
For sure.
For procrastinators like myself.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right.
Yeah.
My to-do list is a testament to the art.
The art.
So getting round to things.
Yes.
Eventually.
Eventually.
But hey, at least we get there in the end, right?
Yeah, we do. That's the spirit. And you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a hidden wisdom in getting around to things.
Okay.
Sometimes we need that period of gestation, that time to let ideas marinate.
Okay.
Before we finally take action.
I like that perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe procrastination isn't always a bad thing.
Maybe not.
Sometimes it's just part of the creative process.
That's right.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
It's amazing how these
I know, it's amazing.
get phrasal verbs can add so much depth and nuance to our conversations.
It's been a real pleasure exploring these linguistic gems with you. I hope our listener feels empowered to use these phrasal verbs with confidence and creativity.
Me too.
Yeah.
And, I think the real takeaway here is that learning a language isn't just about memorizing rules.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the culture, the psychology, the subtle ways that words reflect who we are and how we see the world.
That's beautifully said.
Right.
It's about embracing the messy, vibrant tapestry of human expression.
So to our listener, we say, get out there and get into using these fantastic phrasal verbs.
That's right.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
To play with language and to get round to mastering those tricky nuances.
You got it.
And remember, as with all things in life, don't get too carried away.
That's right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode.
Until next time.
Of The Deep Dive.
Happy language learning.